Hiki's story begins as we see a beam of light coming from a building. There's chaos inside, and the guards realize that the cube they're protecting has been stolen. We meet a girl named Hiki who escapes with the cube, but the guards surround her. They realize she's a mode host as she summons two mechanical arms to fight. She starts attacking them, but the guards suddenly restrain her with their anti-mud weapons. A man named Kazuha appears, and he tells her he's going to take the cube back. As he summons his own weapon, he says that the mode are just tools for them to use. He transforms his weapon into a sword and knocks the cube out of her hand, telling her he can teach her how to use her tools. But she suddenly breaks free from the restraints and attacks him. He manages to push her back and orders his men to catch her, but she takes them out and charges at him. He blocks her attack, but he loses the cube. She tries to take it back, but the container breaks, causing a huge burst of energy. We see a boy named Hikaru watching from a distance as he hears a voice calling for help. The next day, Hikaru wakes up in his room and makes his way to school. As he rides the train, he thinks about what happened last night and looks it up online, but he realizes that nobody's talking about it. The man next to him suddenly falls asleep, and Hikaru sees a pregnant woman. He considers giving up his seat, but the man rests on his shoulder, so he can't stand up. He realizes that everyone's staring at him and sees an ad urging him to step forward. Just as he prepares to get up, he hears about an assignment he forgot. The man wakes up and lets the woman take his seat. Hikaru's friends get on the train, and he tells them about what he saw at night, showing them a video. However, he realizes it didn't capture the pillar of light, so they don't believe him. A girl named Mara asks what they're looking at, and they tell her about his ridiculous story. They ask him about the voice he heard, so he tells them it was asking for help. They start teasing him, saying he heard a ghost, but he suddenly hears the voice again and realizes where it came from. Hikaru starts looking around but reaches a restricted area. A guard is about to stop him, but suddenly receives orders from his superior, so he just tells Hikaru to go home. Hikaru hears the voice again and decides to enter the area. He sees the cube and realizes it's what's talking to him. When he touches it, it suddenly flies into the air and lands on his back, causing a pillar of light to appear as it transforms into a mechanical arm. The cube realizes it has been saved, and Hikaru freaks out as it thanks him because he has no idea what's going on. It tries to introduce itself but doesn't remember its name. Hikaru tries to pull it off but realizes he can't because it's attached to his hood. A drone appears and mentions that the target has been found, but Hikaru thinks it's just a delivery drone. So, he removes his jacket, thinking he should never have picked up the cube because it belongs to the Kagami group. However, the drone believes he's a member of ARMS and prepares to kill him. He runs away, but the arm grabs onto his leg. He tries to remove it, but the drone catches up to them and attempts to cut him up. The arm protects him and destroys the drone. He realizes that the arm is dangerous, but it tells him they don't have time to relax because more drones are approaching. We see a girl reporting to her superiors, telling them the trigger arm has been found, but it seems to have bonded with a human. She mentions that he's a civilian, but her superior doesn't care, ordering her to capture the trigger arm at all costs. Hikaru hides from the drones and asks the arm what's happening, but it explains that it has no idea. The only thing it knows is that he's a good person. It explains that it can't move without Arium, but Hikaru has no idea what it's talking about. When the arm asks for his name, he starts walking away, thinking it will be fine since it can move on its own. The arm warns him they're still in danger, but Hikaru blames it for everything and decides to abandon it. Suddenly, the arm stops moving, so he rushes back. It's able to move again, and he realizes that it can't survive without him. He decides to take it with him. The drones find them, so the arm tells him to hold on tight and drags him away. Meanwhile, Kazuha watches them from a distance, thinking the drones will be enough to eliminate them. We see Hiki in the area as her partner guides her. She notices the alley is too tight, so her arms, Sinews and Dex, ask if they should break through it. She tells them she can squeeze through. Hikaru keeps running, wondering when the drones will stop chasing him. Aki suddenly appears, summoning Sinews and Dex to destroy the drones with a single blow. She calls Hikaru's arm Elma and warns him not to move, saying she'll kill him if he does. Sinews and Dex remind her she's supposed to protect them, but Kazuha shows up, promising to pay her back for the night. Eki tells him he's not the one she's after but spots Hikaru trying to escape. She contemplates going after him, but Kazuha attacks her, demanding her attention. She decides to take him on. Hikaru runs away, starting to regret his actions, but Elma urges him to leave him behind, saying Hikaru is the target and shouldn't be put in danger. Aki catches up after defeating Kazuha. She tells Hikaru and Elma not to cause trouble for her, but Elma insists Hikaru should run while he buys time. Hikaru refuses to leave him behind and decides to fight. Aki prepares to attack, saying she has no choice since he's resisting. Elma tells Hikaru to step forward, assuring him it's the only way to survive. Hikaru recalls an ad encouraging him to face his fears, so he lunges at Aki. Elma transforms into a massive fist and smashes Aki to the ground. Hikaru, shocked, wonders what just happened. Aki tells him to wait, but he runs away with Elma, escaping the restricted area. Later, we see a boy in the Kagami building, upset that his mode has been stolen. He declares that Elma belongs to him. Meanwhile, Aki reports back to her boss, who is disappointed she couldn't capture Elma. Sinise and Dex apologize for underestimating a civilian's ability to use Elma's power. Her boss insists they act quickly before the Kagami group identifies Hikaru, emphasizing the need to protect him. Hikaru heads to school, hiding Elma in his hood. During class, he notices Aki has joined his class. Seeing that the spot next to him is taken, she grabs a table and places it beside him, freaking him out as she cheerfully introduces herself. A girl named TS watches Hikaru, thinking he's cute. Her companion, Wner, asks if she likes him, but TS dismisses the idea, urging him to focus on their mission. Hikaru goes to the restroom, thinking about Aki. Elma suggests talking to her, but Hikaru finds her intimidating and considers calling the police. Elma, playing with the toilet roll, completely covers Hikaru in it. Aki suddenly appears, warning him not to involve the police since they work with the Kagami group. She promises to protect him, but he runs away. Mary sees her chasing after him. Later, Hikaru and his friends hang out on the roof, teasing him about Aki liking him. Spotting her searching for him, they call out to her, but Hikaru vanishes. He's hiding when Elma insists he should talk to her. Mary approaches Aki, offering her sweets. Aki can't resist and praises them, making Elma realize she's not a bad person. Hikaru decides to nap instead of confronting her. After class, Mary gives Hikaru a letter from Aki, asking him to meet her in the old school building. Mary explains Aki has been searching for him all day, assuming he's shy around people. She drags him to the building, ensuring no one will see them. She forces him inside, where Aki is waiting. Hikaru nervously asks her what she wants from him. So, she tells him she's a member of ARM, saying, "Our mission is to watch over Elma." She mentions that she needs to take him to their headquarters, but Sis and Dex think they need to take Aru as well because Elma has already D's with him. He has no idea what DIs means, but Elma tells him not to worry, saying he just needs to cooperate. However, he isn't sure about trusting her. Elma explains that he wants to learn more about himself because he lost his memories. So, Hikaru decides to join Aki, saying he wants to help him. However, he asks her why Elma can't move when he moves away from him, and she realizes that Elma D's onto his hoodie. She becomes confused because mode usually only deer eyes with human flesh. She thinks he needs to be examined and tells him he doesn't have a choice. He panics, telling Alma to transform into his first form. Alma unleashes his powers, but he realizes that he isn't strong enough to transform. Hikaru runs away with him as Iki chases after them. They reach the exit, but Mar doesn't let them leave, so Hikaru realizes he needs to find another way out. We see TS searching for him, but she can't find him. Wner tells her there's a girl at the entrance. Aki can't find Hikaru, and Sis and Dex tell her where to go, but she doesn't follow their advice. Instead, she decides to go down. Hikaru realizes the ceiling is about to break, and it collapses. Aki catches him and asks why he didn't kill her when he had the chance. She thinks he didn't deer eyes with Alma, and Sis and Dex think he's manipulating him. She asks Hikaru what he wants from Elma, but he explains that Hikaru isn't evil. She tells them to show her their bond, so Hikaru unleashes his powers again. However, he still can't transform. She thinks Hikaru is a threat to Elma and prepares to kill him. Mi suddenly opens the door, saying she heard a loud sound. When she sees Aki on top of Aru, she freaks out, thinking about what they're doing. Aki tells her to leave, so she runs away. Wner reports that the coast is clear, but Aki realizes that Hikaru has disappeared. We see him hiding and asking Elma if he still wants to talk to her. Suddenly, Wner appears, and Hikaru realizes he's wearing a Kagami group uniform. Wner mentions that he wants to ask for help before ARMS finds them. Hikaru recalls that the drones from the Kai group tried to kill him. Wner explains there was a mistake, saying they weren't able to finish him off, so he's there to complete the job. He fires a sonic blast, and Elma thinks it didn't do anything, but Aru falls to his knees, feeling strange. Wner tells Tuis to fire, but she says he's in the way, so he moves aside, and she shoots at Hikaru. Elma saves him, and Hikaru runs away as she blames Wner for what happened. She keeps firing at Hikaru, who realizes they're trying to kill him. Wner stuns him again, telling Tuis he's stuck at the end of the hallway. She shoots him, but AI suddenly arrives to save him, mentioning that there are two shackled mode. We learn that shackles are devices that remove the mode consciousness. The Kagami group uses these to turn them into slaves. Wner fires another sonic blast, hitting Aki, but she tells Hikaru to hide while she fights. He refuses to leave her, but she explains they can't let the Kagami group take Elma. Hikaru runs away as Wner attacks Aki with his blades. Hikaru wonders why people keep hunting him down, but Elma tells him they can't leave Aki behind. He decides to help her, telling Hikaru to escape while he saves Aki. Hikaru hesitates but eventually decides to join Elma, mentioning that Wner's sonic beam is dangerous. Elma says he has an idea. Wner shackles Dex and heads to the rooftop, where he meets TS. She tells Aki she looks pathetic, but mentions they can't kill her because their orders are to capture her alive. Hikaru suddenly appears, claiming Wner's attack won't work on him anymore. Wner blasts him, but it doesn't work. Hikaru uses his headphones to cancel the noise. He charges at Wner, telling Aki to fight, but she gets caught. Hikaru realizes his plan was to create an opening for Aki because he can't defeat Wner and TS. He throws Elma towards Aki, telling him to release Sis and Dex. Elma tries to break the shackles but isn't strong enough. He tells Hikaru to come closer, so Hikaru rushes in as Tuis shoots at him. Elma manages to break the shackles. Aki grabs Tuis, using her as a shield, and charges at Wner. Tuis tells Wner to shoot, but he hesitates, not wanting to hit her. She insists they complete the mission, so he reluctantly fires. However, Aki uses her headphones to protect herself and blows him away. After the fight, the building starts collapsing. TS flies away, leaving Wner behind. The building crumbles, but we see that everyone is okay. Aki's boss arrives with his team, telling her she made a mess. After that, Hikaru wakes up at the ARMS headquarters. Aki's boss explains that their organization is fighting against the Kagami group because they want the mode to be free. He introduces himself as Ollie's and mentions that his mode is called Fist. Hikaru realizes that Ollie's looks like Alma. Fist tells Alma he'll regain his memories, calling him his little brother. Ollie's mentions they need Hikaru's help to take down the Kagami group. Alma agrees to join them. Saying he wants to help his friends, Hikaru realizes he will also need to fight, but Al just tells him he doesn't need to do anything. Meanwhile, the guards at the Kagami building realize that another mode, known as the Orbis, has been stolen, and they panic because they know it's particularly dangerous. A man named Quinn tells Hikaru they ran tests on his body, and reveals that AM is a power generated by the human mind, which the mode need to function. He explains that Hikaru's AM is extremely low, so he has no potential as a mode wielder. Quinn tells him they have no choice but to leave Elma in his care, but he mentions that Hikaru is too weak, so he shouldn't do anything himself. However, Aki disagrees, revealing that Hikaru was able to use Elma's powers, and she offers to train him so that he can get stronger. After that, we see Elma doing push-ups as Hikaru wonders if it's supposed to make him stronger because he isn't doing anything. Aki explains that AM is all about spirit, telling him he just needs to psych himself up to make progress. They return to headquarters, where Al just tells them about a thief who's stealing mode from its wielders. He mentions that they need to retrieve the mode as soon as possible, saying the wielder can't survive without it because they will leak Arium from the D's point until they die. Fist explains that Arium is still a mystery to them, but they know it has a major effect on the human body because wielders gain superhuman abilities after mode is derised with them. However, he explains that it's different for Aru because Alma didn't derise with his body. Aki looks at the marks on the victim and realizes that he was attacked by a worm type, but Al just reminds her that her mission is to protect Elma, telling her not to let her feelings get involved. At the Kagami building, the officials discover the identity of the thief. One of them thinks about ordering Expansion Division 3 to search for him, but a man named Toto tells him he can't trust the division because he believes they helped the thief escape. He mentions that his group, called the White Ravens, will capture the thief for the company. We see Hikaru following Aki, asking her where she's going, and they see a group of men reporting to their leader, Amana, who tells them to look for the thief. We learn that Amana is a member of the White Ravens and knows the thief is the brother of the Kagami group's president. Aki appears with Hikaru, who wonders what she's doing, but she just tells him to stay by her side and keep Elma hidden. She asks the men if they know about a worm-type mode wielder, but they suddenly attack her, so she blows them away. Amana recognizes her, knowing she's a member of ARMS. Hikaru also gets blown away, telling her it's impossible to stay by her side. He sees a boy named Jun nearby and tells him to escape because he might get hurt. Hikaru runs away with Jun as Amana's mode transforms into a bike, and he starts chasing after them, telling his men to deal with Aki. Hikaru and Jun are surrounded and about to get attacked, but Elma saves them, telling Hikaru he can't stay hidden since he's in trouble. They see Amana approaching, and he realizes that Jun is gone. However, Amana sees Elma, knowing Expansion Division 3 is looking for him, so Amana decides to capture him. Alma tries to get away with Aru, but Amana catches up and grabs onto Elma. Aki suddenly appears and knocks Amana down, asking him about the worm-type mode wielder, but he tells her he doesn't know anything and starts begging for his life. She decides to spare him and asks Hikaru why he ran off. Hikaru tells her about Jun, but she explains that they almost lost Elma because of him, telling him he's still weak, so he needs to stay close to her. He reminds her that she was the one who led him there and tells her she knocked him down, saying he's had enough, so he decides to go home. We see Jun watching them, realizing Hikaru is Alma's wielder, so he decides to follow him. However, Aki suddenly gets in the way, so Jun starts using his mode, and she realizes it's a worm type. They start fighting, but Aki realizes he isn't the person she's looking for. Jun uses his mecha Yuding to electrocute her. Hikaru thinks about what to do next, and Alma gives him his phone, telling him to apologize to Aki. However, Hikaru realizes she's in trouble and receives a call from her number. Jun tells him to surrender Elma, revealing that he removed Aki's mode, so she's going to die if Hikaru doesn't act. Jun mentions he's willing to trade Aki for Alma and gives Hikaru his location. Hikaru reports the situation to Al, telling him he needs to save her, but Al just tells him to wait for his new bodyguard, reminding him that their top priority is to protect Elma. He tells Hikaru he's too weak to do anything, so he thinks he's useless, but Elma tells him to take action, reminding him that he was able to save Aki before. However, he's convinced that he can't do anything alone, so he tells Elma to help him. They head to a warehouse, where they see Jim waiting for them. He mentions that he wants to take Elma, thinking Sissindex are nothing compared to him because whoever derises with him will gain the strongest body. He attacks Hikaru, telling him to use Elma to fight back. Hikaru dodges the attacks and manages to close the distance, but Jun pushes him back and prepares to finish him off. Jun tells Hikaru he's too weak to do anything, but Hikaru mentions that he already knows that. Hikaru charges in as Jun tries to stop him, but Hikaru pushes him back. Jun becomes angry and decides to fight seriously, surrounding Hikaru with his mod. He declares that it's all over and removes Elma, saying it's time to say goodbye to his worthless body. However, Elma suddenly knocks him down. Hikaru calls out to Elma, who realizes that he needs to help. Hikaru reaches out to him as Jun wonders how he can still move. He touches Elma, and there's suddenly a massive explosion as Hikaru manages to unleash Elma's true power. Jun tries to take him down, but Elma overpowers him, and Jun barely manages to defend himself. Hikaru charges in as Elma merges with his arm, and they deliver a devastating blow that knocks Jun out. Elma tells Hikaru he always believed in him, but Toto suddenly appears, saying he finally found Jun. Toto tells Hikaru not to worry because he doesn't want to fight, revealing that his mission is just to capture Jun. He takes the Sissindex, and Hikaru demands them back. Hikaru thinks he needs to fight, but Jun stops him, saying he wants to be the one who defeats Hikaru. Jun surrenders the Sissindex and retreats, telling Hikaru they will meet again. The next day, we see Hikaru stitching Elma back into his jacket. Aki joins him, telling him she's been looking for him. She reveals that she's searching for the worm-type mod wielder who killed her family, but she knows it isn't Jun. She thanks Hikaru for saving her life and helps him with the stitching. Suddenly, Elma starts screaming, so Hikaru tells her to stop. Maris suddenly appears, asking Eki if she wants some cookies. However, Maris is surprised to see Eki with Hikaru and thinks they're having a moment, so she runs away. Eki helps herself to the cookies. We see members of ARMS observing a transport truck, wondering if Hikaru will be able to finish his mission. Hikaru watches a brute who's collecting Maud. Elma thinks they need to save his comrades, but an ARMS member named Oyama tells them to follow the plan. The brute starts punching a Maud, forcing it to transform, and Elma becomes angry, deciding to make his move. This causes the truck to crash. Hikaru runs away, but the brute pursues him, demanding the return of the Maud he rescued. Hikaru struggles to dodge the brute's attacks and gets cornered as the brute blasts him with his cannon. An ARMS member named Tinai manages to save Hikaru just in time. The brute continues to pursue them, but Aki suddenly appears, knocking him down. She tells Hikaru to escape, so Tinai takes him away. The brute realizes Aki has 2 Maud, but thinks he can defeat her because he has 3. However, his weapon malfunctions as he realizes he's out of power. Sisson and Dex tell him he doesn't stand a chance because he can't control his Maud without proper training. Aki contacts the recovery team, but a worm-type Maud suddenly appears. The brute gets back up, and Aki realizes he's gone berserk. He starts attacking her, and she struggles to defend herself, realizing he's gotten stronger. But Hikaru suddenly joins the fight, pushing him back. The brute fires a laser, but Elma easily deflects it. The brute tries to crush Hikaru with a truck, but he charges in and manages to overpower the brute, knocking him down. T runs to Aru, telling him they were able to save countless Mauds thanks to him. But Aki thinks about the worm type that controlled the brute. After that, Oi takes a shower and recalls how she used to play with her sister, who told her she would protect the family because she's a hero. She meets Quen, who reveals that they were able to remove the brute's mud, but none of them had a worm type. Sis and Dex tell him they saw one while they were fighting the brute, saying it brought him back after he was defeated. The next day, Elma tries to wake Aru up, telling him he's late for school, but Aki suddenly appears, saying she will help him get there on time. At the classroom, the students are shocked as they see Aki carrying Aru, so everyone thinks they're in a relationship. Mary tells Aki about an extremely rich transfer student, and a voice calls out to Aru, telling him to come to the roof. He decides to go there and realizes that Jun is the transfer student. Jun explains that he's been looking for Aru, but Aki suddenly attacks him. Jun prepares to take her on, but Toto reminds him about his promise, telling him it's the reason he was allowed to transfer. Jun recalls that he can't use his Maud while he's at school, so he decides to surrender, saying he will take Alma in the future. However, he mentions that he transferred because of Hikaru. He reveals that he still hasn't mastered how to control his mud or burrows, so he wants to learn Hikaru's secret since he was able to unleash Alma's power. He asks Jun if he knows anything about Elma, telling him he lost his memories, but Aki charges in, saying Jun needs to be taken out because he's too dangerous. Elma stops her, and they start fighting. Jun mentions that he won't fight them while they're at school, but he warns them to be careful when they're walking home at night. During their lunch break, Aki keeps following Hikaru, who tries to escape from her, saying he just wants to be alone. He manages to lose her but wasn't able to eat his lunch. Jun tells him his timing is perfect, as he recalls that Toto told him Aru's diet helps him control Elma. Jun offers to buy Aru lunch using his black card, but Aki appears, telling Jun to buy lunch for her instead. She tells him to treat her to some top-grade yakiniku, but he refuses, and they start to argue. Mei watches them, realizing they're fighting over Hikaru. Hikaru heads to the toilet, wondering how he can get rid of Aki because he wants to ask Jun about Elma. He thinks he will finally get his chance during the sports tournament, but he can't find Jun, and a ball hits him. Jun watches him from a distance, wondering why he wasn't able to dodge it. Another ball almost hits him, but it crashes into Aru, knocking him out. Aki realizes she missed Jun and apologizes for hitting Hikaru. Mei suddenly joins them, and Jun tells her that Hikaru belongs to him. Mei tells him to have a duel with Aki, saying the winner will get Hikaru. When Hikaru wakes up, he realizes they're about to fight, and Elma tells him he needs to stop them. Hikaru promises to buy the top-grade yakiniku for Aki under the condition that she gives him a moment to talk to Jun. She walks away with Maru, and Elma asks Jun if he knows anything about him, saying he lost all of his memories. Jun reveals that he used to belong to his ancestor named Yakumo Kagami. Hikaru recognizes him, knowing he's the founder of the Kagami group. Elma wonders if he hurt his comrades, but Jun tells him he doesn't know. Aki receives a call from Quen, who tells her he has information about the worm-type mutie she's looking for. Hikaru heads to the Yakumo Army Library, where Elma sees supporters of the Kagami group, wondering why they're supporting an evil company. He sees a picture of Yakumo and suddenly starts crying, mentioning that he can't remember anything. He begins to think he's useless. We see T being attacked by a worm-type mode when Aki arrives. Recognizing the host as the person who killed her family, the girl removes T's mecha Kark, throwing him away, and she crushes it into pieces. Oi charges at her, but the girl jumps away, and she starts controlling Tunny, causing him to go berserk. Aki realizes that she's the same person who controlled the brute, and Tinai starts attacking her as the girl uses the opportunity to escape. Aki fights back against Tanny, knocking him out, and Hikaru arrives at the scene, realizing he's in terrible shape. As Iya arrives with the others, they say they need to take him to the headquarters. T receives medical treatment as Ollie's mentions that he will survive, but he thinks Karks won't make it. Hikaru wonders if they can repair him, but Ollie's explains that mud are mechanical life forms, so death is permanent for them. Fist reveals that they came from a different dimension because they were searching for the artifact that gave them life, which is called the Ordella. Thinking it could help them save their homeland, the humans helped them find it, but an accident occurred while they were trying to awaken it. Elma used all of his powers to seal it away, but it caused him to go into a long sleep. Aluz explains that he's important because his lost memories are the key to activating and sealing Ordella. We see Quen telling Aki about the worm-type mode host, revealing that she's been attacking other wielders during the past few months. Aki wonders why she hasn't heard about it, so he explains that he had to hack the ARMS database to get the info, saying Al just appears to be investigating the case alone. He mentions that the first record was from 8 years ago, and she thinks it's the incident where her family was killed. They hear a notification, and Quen mentions that the worm-type mud wielder has appeared again. Aki rushes to find her. She sees her, telling her to show her face, but she realizes that the girl is her sister, Fuki. In a flashback, we see Aki playing with Fubuki, who tells CZ and Dex to lock the princess up since they're the villains, but they refuse to cooperate. Eki doesn't want to fight them, so Fubuki realizes that the story is a mess. A woman calls her, telling her they have a new mode, and Eki tries to follow her, but she stumbles. Fubuki catches her, telling her to do her part as the hero. After some time, the establishment catches fire, and as Eki tries to look for her sister, she sees C's cube, but her family is nowhere to be found. We return to the present as Fuki hugs Eki, but she suddenly starts coughing, and her mode named Amaryllis appears. Sis and Dex attack it as Eki's hairpin falls off. She thinks Fuki is being controlled by Amaryllis, but the other members of ARMS appear, so she leaves the scene. They see her hairpin on the ground. She mentions that she doesn't want ARMS to get involved and blames Amaryllis for her parents' death. However, Fubuki explains Amaryllis is innocent, saying she's the one responsible for what happened. Amaris explains that it was an accident, saying the scientists were trying to perform an experiment, but Fubuki's aim suddenly reacted with her, destroying everything around them. The sinus was removed from Fubuki's body, and Amaryllis tried to dear eyes with her, hoping it would improve the situation, but it only made things worse because Fubuki was in a state of panic. Her aim caused Amaryllis to lose control, but Aki doesn't believe her. Fubuki explains that Amaryllis tried to save her, but she suddenly collapses. Aki thinks they should take her to a doctor, but Amaryllis explains that her disease can't be cured by doctors because her body can no longer produce AM, saying there's only one way to save her life. The next day, Elma tries to wake Karu up, telling him it's almost time for Aki to show up. He panics, but he hears the doorbell and is surprised she didn't come through his window. They make their way to school, and Maru appears, inviting Hikaru to study with AI and June. She mentions that they will study in his house. He thinks it's a terrible idea. But June thinks it's his chance to learn Hikaru's secret, so he decides to join them, saying he wants to study with him. Mary tells Aki to join them, but she tells them she isn't interested. Mary then tells her it's her chance to go to Aru's house, but Aki explains that she goes there every day. Mara can't believe it, thinking their relationship is getting serious. Hikaru tells Aki she's acting strange, asking her what happened, but she decides not to tell him anything. Meanwhile, an ARMS member approaches Quinn, asking him what happened to Aki. He tells her he doesn't know anything, but she doesn't believe him and starts pulling his hair. So, he decides to tell her the truth. Amaris reveals that she has the power to absorb Arium from other mode hosts, which is how she has been helping Fuki. However, she mentions that her disease is getting worse and asks Aki if she's willing to do what it takes to save her, saying they're running out of time. Amaryllis explains that the only way to save Fubuki is to kill Aru, because his aim is special, and they can use it to save her. After that, we see mode wielders going berserk, causing chaos and a rampage as everyone wonders what's going on. Ollie's notes that the civilians are in danger, so he orders the members of ARMS to secure the subjects. Oyama defeats one of them, recognizing him as a member of the Kagami group, and realizes that they aren't responsible for the incident. Kazuha is about to attack one of the subjects, but Amon beats him to it. He recognizes Amon, knowing he's a member of the White Ravens. Amon looks down on him, recognizing him as a member of Expansion 3. He charges at Amon, but his attack is blocked, and he's easily taken out. Hikaru and the others prepare for their study session, but he suddenly receives a message from Ollie's. He tells them he can't join and goes to the headquarters, where Ollie's explains what's happening. He shows Hikaru the worm-type mode controlling the subjects. Hikaru wonders if AI is involved. Ollie's explains that she made contact with the person behind the incident and believes she needs to be captured because she betrayed them. Elmer reminds him that she's their comrade, but Fist explains that it doesn't matter, telling him they shouldn't let emotions cloud their judgment. Hikaru decides to look for her before ARMS finds her, but he encounters Quen, who calls him a fool for running off without a plan. Wner appears, and Quen explains that he can help them find a key. We see his mode, named Kaguru, who apologizes for trying to kill Akaru in the past. He reveals that ARMS saved him from Wner's control, allowing him to act freely, but he doesn't want to leave Wner. Instead, he wants to teach him how to become a Bushido warrior. Kaguru orders him to get on the floor, telling him he needs to atone for his sins. They search the city as Kaguru explains that his sonar will help them find Aki's Arium. But Jun suddenly appears, telling Hikaru he won't leave his side until he discovers his secret. Elma asks Jun if he will help them find Aki, suggesting they can have a study session together afterward. We see Todo talking to the president of the Kagami group, telling him Jun is getting involved in the incident. Todo wonders if they should bring him back because he might get hurt. However, the president doesn't care, saying Jun's safety isn't the company's priority. Kaguru continues to search for Akai and gets a signal, leading them to the spot where she found Fuki. They finally see her, but she glares at them, and Hikaru realizes something is wrong. He tries to talk to her, but she tells him he needs to come with her, even if she has to take him by force. Jun stops her, saying Hikaru belongs to him. They start to fight, and Jun manages to restrain her. Hikaru gets in the way, asking them both to calm down. He asks Aki why she needs him. Sis and Dex tell them about Fubuki's situation. Jun thinks Amaryllis is manipulating Aki, but Aru still agrees to help her, reminding her that they're friends. Alma also mentions the AQ, saying they should all eat together once things are over. Jun thinks it's an obvious trap, but Hikaru insists on going. Seeing how far he's willing to go for her, Aki changes her mind, saying she doesn't want his pity. She tells him they were never friends and decides to leave without him. She returns to Fubuki, and Amaris realizes she didn't bring Hikaru. He reminds her that Fubuki's body won't last much longer. Aki thinks they need to find another way, but Fubuki believes Aki cares about Hikaru more than her. She asks Aki if she's willing to lose her again. Aki offers to give her own Arium. Elma thinks they need to go after Aki, but Hikaru is depressed after hearing they weren't friends. He thinks they shouldn't get in her way. Jun is reminded of himself when he didn't want to get in his brother's way, so he tells Hikaru to man up. Hikaru realizes he needs to go after her. Meanwhile, we see Quen with Ko, finding information about the accident involving Amaryllis, which led to the death of Aki's family. They realize Fubuki is the host of the worm, but they wonder why she has only just appeared now. Al suddenly joins them, mentioning they must be after Hikaru's Aeum. Quen wonders why he never told Aki her sister was alive. Al explains that she's being controlled by Amaryllis, so he didn't think Aki could handle it and wanted to deal with it secretly. Meanwhile, Amaryllis tells Aki her Arium isn't enough, and Hikaru is the only option. Fubuki tells Aki she needs to be punished for not listening. Aki finally realizes she's being controlled, and they start to fight. Fubuki suddenly begs for her help, distracting her. Amaryllis takes advantage and catches Aki, mocking her for being too easy to fool. Amaryllis considers taking over Aki's body. She reveals she killed Aki's parents to take over Fubuki's body. Aki falls into despair, but Aru suddenly bursts through the window, knocking Amaryllis away. Aki wonders why Aru came, telling him he's the target. He doesn't care, saying she's a friend. Amaryllis gets back up, and Aki tells them her sister is being controlled. Jun gets caught but holds Amaryllis back from getting to Hikaru. Amaris recognizes Ouroboros, but she laughs since it's just a failed copy of her. Hikaru gets knocked back, and Elma notes that his power is fading. Realizing that Amaryllis absorbed their power during her attack, Aki gets in the way. Amarilla praises her dedication to her job, but she notes that she's protecting him because she's his friend. Amaryllis notes that Fubuki is still her hostage, so there's nothing Aki can do. She prepares to deal with Hikaru, and he charges at her, but she uses Aki as a shield, so he ends up being stabbed. She starts absorbing his Arium, and she finds it just as abundant as it was 100 years ago. Elma wonders what she means, and Aki tries to get free, but Amaryllis tells her she's no longer needed. She apologizes for failing to save Fubuki once again, begging someone else. Her and Hikaru suddenly start to overflow with even more energy. Amaris gets excited from all the Arium she's absorbing, but Hikaru suddenly overwhelms her, and he manages to free Aki. As the dust clears, Hikaru is weakened, so June steps up to face Amaryllis, but she doesn't think he's worth her time. He attacks with his mode, refusing to be ignored. Amaryllis tries to fight back, but he uses all his strength and manages to tear her away from Fubuki. Aki rushes to her sister, and as she wakes up, she seems to be back to normal. Amaryllis controls her other puppets, but Aki is able to blow them away. Amaryllis prepares to deal with her, but Hikaru charges in, blowing away part of her body. She's surprised by his power, so she unleashes everything to deal with him, but Hikaru is able to overwhelm her. As she starts to shatter, she blames Elma for everything, saying he was responsible for Yakumo's death. But she fades away, so Hikaru is glad it's all over. Elma wonders what she meant, and we see that she actually managed to survive. However, she's caught by a mysterious man. After that, we see Aki breaking into Aru's room once again, telling him to wake up. He's just glad that she's back to normal. As they head to school, Aki thanks him for everything, but he tells her not to worry about it, since they're friends. She asks him for a favor, wanting him to help her study because she wants to be able to teach Fubuki. He agrees to help her, and she promises to guard him even closer. However, he tells her it's not necessary. Meanwhile, at the Kagami group, we see them testing a gate, and we learn they're trying to open a portal to the mode world so they can profit from taking control of all the mode that reside there. The director notes that they need Ordella as the power source, but the trigger arm is needed to activate it, so he's determined to retrieve Elma. We see Elma when he first met Yakumo, and he apologizes for getting him involved, knowing Yakumo has nothing to do with what's happening. But Yakumo just tells Elma that they'll be able to make it out, saying they will eat food together. Elma senses an insane level of Arium, realizing it's coming from Yakumo. We return to the present as Mary sees Hikaru and Aki with Oyama, who mentions that he will serve as Aru's new bodyguard because Aki can't be trusted. But she refuses to hand him over, so they start to argue. Mira thinks he looks dangerous, so she decides to ask for help. We see Kazuo working as a security guard, and we learn that his mode has been confiscated. But he hears Mew asking for help, so he approaches Oyama and the others, telling them Hikaru is under arrest. But Iki jumps away with him, and they land on a truck as Kazuo runs after them. Oyama tries to stop him. Todo tells Jin that Ouroboros is broken, telling him his body needs it to function properly, so he advises him to stay home for the meantime. But Jin refuses because he doesn't want his brother to see how weak he has become. We return to Aru as Elma apologizes for ruining his peaceful life. But Aru reminds Elma that he promised to stay with him until his memory returns. Sinis and Dex interrupt them, telling them they need to eat before the truck arrives at school. However, it suddenly stops moving as 3 members of Expansion 3 appear, putting the driver to sleep. A girl named Forte starts shooting at Aru, so Aki saves him, telling him to go to school while she deals with them. But Kazuo arrives to stop him. So, she wonders what happened to Oyama, and we see Hikaru's friends ganging up on him. Kazuo mentions that he will capture Hikaru to restore his reputation, and Tua sees him, wondering what he's doing there. A mode wielder appears, revealing that he's a rookie, and Kazuo realizes his mode was given to him. The boy lunges at Aru, but Kazuo knocks him down, telling him to return his mode, and he manages to retrieve it. Forte notes that he's ruining their plan. Oki attacks her, but she jumps away and prepares to fire back, but she crashes into Kazuo. She tells him to stop getting in the way. She continues to fight Aki as Kazuo attacks Hikaru, who uses Elma's power. Hikaru grabs onto his mode before throwing him at Forte. Aki follows up, knocking them out, but the leader of the group mentions that he has done enough to earn his pay and orders everyone to retreat. Aki tries to restrain the rookie, but she screws up. Hiru tries to set her free, but Kazuo attacks him from behind. Elma protects him, but he loses consciousness as he hits the ground. When he wakes up, he sees Oya, who mentions that he's glad Aru is okay. Elma apologizes for what happened, telling him he could have died. Hikaru thinks Elma is overreacting, but Elma explains that he doesn't want to lose another friend because of his actions. Hikaru realizes that he has regained his memories. Elma reveals that his memories returned after they fought Amaryllis. Hikaru wonders why he didn't say anything, but Elma explains that he didn't want Aru to get involved with his problem. He starts leaving, and Aki thinks they don't need to do anything because Hikaru can't move when he's over 5 meters away. However, he doesn't stop, so everyone chases after him. Hikaru tells them to leave him alone as he enters a dark alley. They return to the ARMS headquarters, where Fist explains that when Elmer remembered everything, he was able to regain his power to produce Aamful, allowing him to move without dicing with a human. Al orders everyone to look for Hikaru, but tells him he's no longer needed because he's just an ordinary citizen. Quinn thinks Hikaru should be happy because he can finally return to a peaceful life, but Hikaru demands an explanation from Aluz. Fist tells him about the history of Mode, explaining they almost went extinct due to an energy crisis. They traveled to search for their ancestor Orella, hoping he could help them. However, Fist and Elma fell asleep during their journey because they ran out of energy. Yukumo and his brother saw light coming from a mine, so they decided to investigate. Suddenly, there's an earthquake, and they see Elma. Yukumo decides to take him home before the mine collapses. When Fist wakes up, he realizes that Elma has already deared with Yukumo while he's with Yukumo's older brother, Hio, who happens to be a scientist. Hio tells Fist that he has an illness related to Am and decides to help him find Orella, wanting to learn more about Am and find a cure. Yukumo also wants to help, so he joins them in their search. They eventually find Orella in a cave and try to resurrect him, but he suddenly blasts them away. Hio notes that he wasn't expecting this. Orella finishes him off, and Elma wonders what to do. Yukumo tells him they need to step forward and follow him. They charge in, but Orella fires a destructive laser beam that almost hits them. Elma thinks they don't stand a chance, but Yukumo refuses to give up. Yukumo rushes forward, dodges Orella's attacks, and manages to punch him with everything he has. The attack creates a massive explosion, separating Elma from his body. Orella's power is sealed, but Elma worries about Yukumo, saying he doesn't know what to do without him. Yukumo assures him that he won't die so easily and promises they'll make it out and eat food together. However, he suddenly passes away, leaving Elma mourning his death. After that, Elma falls asleep due to running out of power and doesn't wake up until Aru finds him. We return to the present as Jun finds Elma and realizes Hikaru isn't with him. He tries to dice with Elma, but it doesn't work. Upset, Jun realizes he isn't fit to become Elma's wielder and asks why Elma isn't with Hikaru. Meanwhile, Hikaru receives a message from Akai, who sends him a video of Elma calling out to him. Hikaru thinks Elma needs him and runs to look for him, but he suddenly receives a call from Jun's number. He answers it, realizing Elma is on the phone. Elma recalls how Hikaru helped him when they first met, even though he didn't know anything about him. Elma tells Hikaru he's the kindest person he's ever met, but says it's time for them to part ways because he no longer needs his help and doesn't want to involve him further. He thanks Hikaru for everything and ends the call as Jun leaves with Elma. However, Todo suddenly appears, telling Jun it's time to go back. Aki asks Hikaru if he was able to find Elma, but he explains that Elma no longer needs him. Thinking he isn't good enough to replace Yukumo, he doubts himself. Aki hits him, telling him to get a grip. She explains that it's her duty to protect him and Elma, so they need to stay together. Hikaru mentions that Elma no longer wants to be with him. But Aki thinks Elma is just struggling to move on. She knows it's impossible for him to move forward because he's too fixated on his past. She tells Hikaru he needs to find Elma because the problem won't be solved if he does nothing. Though hesitant, Hikaru recalls how Elma told him to keep going forward. Determined, he decides to find Elma, saying he will punish him for deciding things on his own. Aki is happy to hear this, but she suddenly receives a call from Quen, who tells her he has information about Elma. Jun thinks Todo is here to take him back home, but he doesn't want to go. So, he grabs Alma and tries to use him as a baseball bat. Todo easily catches him and slaps a shackle on Alma to keep him contained. He's actually here on orders from Jun's older brother, so he apologizes but explains that he's going to have to take both of them back to Kami HQ. He throws them in the back of a truck. Aki and Hikaru are currently looking for Alma, but since Hikaru's running speed is way too slow, she's carrying him on her shoulders to save time. However, they still have no idea where to find Alma. Quen calls Aki and tells her he found someone to help them search. A couple of seconds later, Kajiru comes crashing down on the roof and boldly declares that he is here to assist Aki in the search. But Kajiru really just wants to go home because he's sick of hearing Karo's voice. Even Hikaru doesn't like listening to Kajiru, mostly because he's always yelling. It's so loud that the Kagami group scouts on the ground nearly hear them. Aki tries to call Quen back to ask if they can get someone else to come, but she can't get a hold of him. On Quen's end, he has lost access to all external signals. Shortly after he realizes this, Kayano runs in to inform him that there's a citywide jamming signal messing with their communications. If they want to find Alma, they will have to go out on the field in person. They don't have any information on who's behind this, but Algiz already knows this must have something to do with the Kagami group, so he decides to get involved personally. At the same time, Todo has just arrived in the Kagami Ordella research lab with Alma and Jun. The Division 3 director is thrilled because it means they can finally move to the next phase of the plan. He praises Jun for finding and capturing Alma, but as one of his assistants takes Alma to the holding chamber, he realizes that Jun has been gagged for some reason. When he asks about this, Todo just says they were having a bit of fun. The director doesn't want to pry into Jun's kinks, so he thanks him for the good work and invites him to have a front row seat to the most important event of the century. Jun has no idea what he's looking at, so the director explains that this is the Ordella Gate, meant to be a portal to the world of the Mecha Uds. Once they awaken Ordella, they'll use its power to invade the Mecha Ud world and enslave its inhabitants for the benefit of the Kagami group. Jun is in disbelief because he never imagined his brother would put so much effort into such a ridiculous plan. Just then, Jun's older brother, Nowo, shows up, irritated by Jun's presence. However, since everything is ready, Nowo doesn't bother kicking him out. He orders everyone to begin awakening Ordella. As the sequence commences, Alma regains consciousness and panics when he sees Ordella. He realizes the scientists are trying to use him to break the seal on Ordella and pleads with them to stop. He warns them that Ordella is too dangerous to be unleashed. The director dismisses Alma's concerns, convinced that their technological advancements will let them control Ordella's power. He even mocks Alma by saying he'll let him visit old friends in the Mecha Ud world, but only after shackling every single one of them. Alma desperately tries to explain that Ordella isn't what they think it is, but the director believes he's bluffing. As Ordella awakens, the containment field begins to fail. The scientists report that Ordella's arbitrium levels are rising uncontrollably. Jun becomes worried that the situation is spiraling out of control. Moments later, Ordella lashes out, destroying parts of the lab. Despite the chaos, Nowo seems pleased, claiming this is exactly what he wanted. Outside, Hikaru and Aki see the destruction from afar. Realizing something terrible has happened, Hikaru rushes off to try and save Alma, leaving Aki behind. Back in the lab, the director, stunned by the failure of his perfect plan, is forced to evacuate. His assistants urge him to flee with them. Meanwhile, Nowo stays in the control room, indifferent to the chaos. Before things deteriorate further, Todo takes Jun to a safe place to ensure his safety. When Jun regains consciousness, he demands answers. Todo is willing to explain everything but warns Jun that he must be ready to take action. On the roof, the director prepares to flee with Alma via helicopter. However, Hikaru appears and demands that Alma be released. Recognizing Hikaru, the director orders his men to capture him. Realizing he's outmatched, Hikaru regrets coming alone. Quen arrives just in time to support Hikaru. Hikaru thanks him and asks him to distract the attackers while he searches for a key. Unfortunately, Quen is just as useless as Hikaru in a fight. When Fort opens fire with her machine gun, Quen somehow avoids getting hit but knows he's out of his depth. As he frantically looks around for a solution, he notices a shackled mecha nearby. So, he pulls out a device that he made to undo the shackles and runs over to the mecha to free it. Once they fuse together, he might not have much fighting experience, but now that he's got a mecha, he is at least enough of a threat to hold his ground for a little while. Unfortunately, he has never trained his body to support a mecha before, so after a few minutes of use, he runs out of arbitrium and merely passes out. It looks like he's back to running for his life again. He apologizes for not being able to do more to help his team, but Aki tells him he did great because he bought more than enough time for her to get back with Hikaru and Wner. Unfortunately, Aki gets held up by Kazuya, who is asking for a rematch after their last encounter. He's not going to let her get past him without a fight. He's gone through a process to integrate his mecha deep into his body, and he believes that with this, he should be able to outclass Aki in every way. But just to prove a point, Aki decides to stand there and let him do his attack. Instead of blocking with Sinnies or Dex, she catches his whip with her bare hands. She makes it clear to him that it's not his mecha that's holding him back. It's his own lack of skill and strength that causes him to lose over and over. Until he learns to accept his weakness and grow from it, he will never be able to beat her. Kazuya refuses to accept that he's just weaker than Akai, so he charges at her again. This time, Iki doesn't have the patience to display her dominance, so she just knocks him out. Now that she has dealt with Kazu, she wants to hurry and catch up to Hikaru and Wner. But before she can leave, someone shows up to interfere with her yet again. The guy is called Namba, and he says he just wants to talk for a little bit. However, Aki is never in the mood for a discussion, so she immediately tries to knock him out as well. It looks like Namba's nonchalance isn't for nothing, though, because he effortlessly evades Aki and tells her he really doesn't want to fight. He's just here to do his job. Otherwise, his salary is going to get cut, and he can't afford to lose his job because it would ruin his retirement plan. He begs her to just turn around and go home so he doesn't have to beat up a kid. But Aki refuses to withdraw, so Namba is forced to engage in combat against her. Aki begins darting across the room and attempts to confuse Namba. But when she goes in for the finishing blow, Namba easily blocks her attack with his mecha. He tells her that little kids like her shouldn't be running around with powerful mecha like that. He admits that she's got some skill, but he says it's time for him to hurt her a little so she learns not to mess with adults. He then pulls out his sword mecha and begins clashing with Aki. To her credit, she's doing pretty well against him, considering how much experience he has. Meanwhile, Aru and Wner crash land in front of Tuss, and the director sees that he's starting to lose control of the situation. Not wanting to waste any more time, he gets on his helicopter to fly away. However, just as he is about to take off, his helicopter is stopped by one of the former Division 3 members, THG, who is literally holding it with his bare hands. Quan is glad backup has arrived, but he doesn't understand why THG is helping them. So, Keanu explains that TRHG has a crush on her, so he's just trying to get on her good side. While he keeps the helicopter from taking off, Keanu says she will handle it. So Hikaru and Wner are free to board the helicopter and take Alma back. Hikaru is ready to do it, but they forget that Fort is still a problem. She starts firing at everyone from the helicopter until she accidentally hits some precariously placed barrels of oil, causing a massive explosion. The force from the explosion sends Hikaru and Dubiner flying straight into Fort and the director, so everyone gets knocked unconscious. As a result, Namba and Aki hear the explosion from the other side of the building, and Namba figures he has done enough for a work report. He doesn't want to stick around and tells Aki he's going to leave now so she doesn't have to worry about him anymore. Meanwhile, on the helicopter, Hikaru is the first one to regain consciousness, but shortly after, the director wakes up as well, and he is furious that a bunch of kids are standing in his way. He's going to take care of Hikaru personally and picks up Fort's gun to do it. Dubiner is still out cold, so he can't help in this situation, and without a mecha, there's no way Hikaru can stand up to that gunfire. Luckily, Keijiru is still conscious, so Hikaru comes up with a good but risky plan to get past the director. He steps out into the line of fire to draw the director's attention. While he's focused on Hikaru, Keijiru sneaks up from behind and starts clawing at his face. This buys Hikaru enough time to slip by and get to Alma. Even though Alma is still unconscious, Hikaru is able to tie him to his arm and knock the director out with one punch. Alma wakes up a little while later and finds Hikaru badly injured, so he starts freaking out and blaming himself for this whole mess. He tells Hikaru that he didn't need to come to save him because this doesn't involve him anymore. It's Alma's fault that Ordella was awakened, so it's his duty to stop it on his own so no one gets hurt like last time. Yakumo mentioned that he thought something was wrong, but Alma was too eager to achieve his goal, so he ignored it, and it ended up killing Yakumo. He doesn't want that to happen to Hikaru, so he wants to handle this by himself. Hikaru understands that Alma feels burdened by Yakumo's death, and he sympathizes with him, but they still have a city to save. He gets up and says they need to hurry if they are going to stop Ordella. Alma tries to stop Hikaru, but Hikaru tells him that even if Alma doesn't want to join him, he's still going to go fight Ordella. Although they will probably die a painful death if he fights on his own, Alma eventually concedes and agrees to go with Hikaru. Hikaru is sure everything will work out if the two of them are together.